to Just Another Stitch. For those that don't know me, my name is Connie, and today I will be showing you how to make a basic beanie using the magic loop method. And this is the beanie that I made. And this was actually my first time knitting a beanie using the magic loop method. All right, so what you will need for this tutorial, you will need 4-weight yarn. I used Lion Brand's Ferris wheel yarn. It's a 4-weight yarn, and this skein has 270 yards. I didn't even use half the skein. All right, knitting needles. These are circular 5mm knitting needles. That's the size you will need. And you need a long cord. And if I measured mine from tip to tip, and it's about 40 inches long, but you do need a long cord. All right. You will also need scissors and a darning needle to weave in your ends and a tape measure. So those are the supplies that you will need for this tutorial. So let's do this. Okay, we're going to cast on 80 stitches using the long tail cast on method. And if you need more practice with this cast on method, I do have a tutorial in my beginner knit series playlist. All right, so you want to grab your yarn and your knitting needle. Place your yarn on top of the needle. Leave a little bit of a tail. And just put your thumb on top of that yarn. Now you want to wrap around the needle 10 times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Pinch it right here and then let it go from your knitting needle. And that piece of yarn represents about 10 cast on stitches. All right, so fold this in half where you have it pinched and do like this. That's 20. And we're going to do this until we get to 80. Fold it and pinch. 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, and 80. All right, pinch it right here. This is where we're going to do our slip knot. So take your yarn that's connected to your skein, make a loop. Like this. Pinch it, take what's connected to the skein, and just feed it through that loop from the bottom up, like this. All right, release and tighten, and you have a slip knot. Grab your knitting needle and place it through the loop, and we're just going to tighten until it's nice and secure on the knitting needle like that. And your slip stitch counts as your first casted on stitch with the long tail cast on method. Okay, so the yarn that's connected to your skein will go on top like this. Your long tail is at the bottom. Take your fingers, kind of like a pair of scissors, and snatch up the piece of yarn connected to your skein. Take your bottom 2 fingers and go like this with the tail. Now take your thumb and scoop up this bore right here. Okay? And this is how it should look. Take your knitting needle, scoop up this piece of yarn at the very bottom, your tail piece that's wrapped around your thumb. Scoop it up, bring it all the way over. And then you want to scoop up that piece of yarn connect it to the skein of yarn right here. And we're going to go through the loop. And then you release and you tighten it up. All right, so you have 2 stitches casted on now. And we just do that again. All right, and you just keep casting on. Okay, cast on 40 stitches and we're gonna meet back up. That's where we're gonna place the stitch marker. Okay, I have 40 stitches casted on. And remember, that includes your slip knot. Your slip knot counts as your first casted on stitch. And just take your stitch marker and place it on your needle. And then we're just going to resume casting on until we get to 80 stitches. So we're at 40, 41, and like I said, just keep doing this until you reach 80 stitches, and we'll meet back up there. Okay, you should have 80 stitches casted on. And if you're like me, you have a good bit of excess for your tail. So I am going to cut that piece of yarn. But remember, you want to leave a long enough tail so that you can sew in your ends. So I'm gonna cut it about right here. Okay, now what you want to do is, where that stitch marker is, you want to pinch your cord. That's where your stitches are evenly divided. All right, and you want to pull out the cord. You want to pull it like this. Make sure none of your stitches come off your needle. That's very, very important. All right. And you want to get your needles like this. All right. You see how the working yarn is on the top needle? All your stitches are facing inside. This is extremely important. I cannot stress this enough. They all have to be facing the same direction, or else your brim will get twisted. All right, so now you want to pull your top needle out like this. All right, you still have your loop in the back. That's important. You got to have that loop. Okay, now what you want to do is hold that bottom needle with your left hand, the top needle with your right hand. We're going to do 10 rounds of a knit 2, purl 2 ribbing. All right, so let's go into that first stitch. We're going to knit it. Okay, you want to grab both your tail and your end piece here. And you want to work really, really snug. And we're going to finish off that knit stitch. Now you want that snug because you'll have a gap if it's not. You don't want gaps. All right, so you'll notice there's 2 loops now here. And that's because you were also working with your tail. You're going to take your stitch marker and go through both those loops. And this marks the beginning of the round. And make sure you use a stitch marker where you can identify that it's the beginning of the round. All right. So for the knit and the purl stitches, if you need more practice on those stitches, I do have tutorials in my beginner knit series. I will have that linked for you. Now we're going to do another knit stitch. we're going to have 2 knit stitches. But from here on out, we're only going to use the working yarn, not the tail. All right. So now we have 2 knit stitches. Now we're doing 2 purl stitches. The working yarn comes in the front. Remember, knit stitch, it goes in the back. Purl stitch, it's in the front. And now we're going to purl 2. 1. And 2. Now we're back to the knit stitch, yarn in the back, and knit 2. 1 and 2. Back to the purl stitch, yarn in the front. And we're going to purl. All right, now we're back to knit stitch, yarn in the back, and we do 2 knit stitches. One and 2. Now we're back to the purl stitch, yarn in the front, and let's purl 2. 1, 2. All right, back to knit stitch, yarn goes in the back. One thing I do want to point out that you can do, between each repeat, you can place a stitch marker that's a different color than your beginning of round, and that will help you keep your ribbing straight. You may not want to do it every single repeat. You may want to do it every 2 repeats or every 20 stitches. It's completely up to you, but if you're a newbie, you might want to do that. All right, and we're going to do our 2 knit stitches now. 1 and 2. Back to the purl stitch, yarn in the front, and purl 2. 1 and 2. And now we're just going to keep repeating knit 2, purl 2. Make sure you have your yarn in the back when you start that knit stitch. And keep doing that until you finish working your 40 stitches on this needle here, the halfway mark. And you will end on 2 purl stitches. We will meet back up there and I'll show you how to do the other half of the round. Okay, we have finished those 40 stitches. So now I'm all twisted here. Now we're going to pull these stitches on that needle here. And again, make sure all your stitches are facing on the inside. Right here, the top needle has the ones you just worked. The bottom needle has the ones you need to work. You want to pull this needle out here, the top needle. And you see you still have your loop back here. All right, grab your bottom needle here. Okay. This is the bottom needle in your left hand. This was the top needle. Make sure this yarn is in the back because we're going into knit stitches. All right. And now we do 2 knit stitches. And make sure you're nice and snug here. You don't want no gaps. 1 and 2. Now we purl yarn in the front. 1 and 2. Now yarn goes in the back and we knit 2. 1 and 2. Yarn in the front and we purl 2. 1 and 2. Yarn goes back to the back, and now we just continue to knit 2, purl 2 until you get to the end of this needle, these 40 stitches. You will end with 2 purl stitches. Okay, we have finished round 1. So now what you want to do is get your needles like this. And you want to push that cord back out. Okay. All right. I had it the wrong way. All right. Your working yarn is on the top again. Make sure all your stitches are pointing on the inside. And you want to either use a stitch counter or a sheet of paper and mark off your row. So you have completed round 1. And moving on to round 2, we're going to push this needle out. And the bottom needle goes in your left hand. And the one with the working yarn is going to go in your bottom hand. All right, remember that first stitch has 2 loops. And here is your stitch marker here. We're going to knit this stitch. Make sure your working yarn is in the back. Go through both those loops. And do a knit stitch. All right. I'm going to put my stitch marker back here to mark the beginning of the round. All right, and we do another knit stitch. And then we purl 2. It's the same thing we just did. And the yarn's in the front for the purl. All right, yarn in the back, knit 2. 1 and 2, yarn in the front, purl 2. 1 and 2. Put the yarn back in the back and just continue to knit 2, purl 2 until you reach the halfway mark again, and we'll meet back up there. Okay, I just ended with my 2 purl stitches. So now I'm going to pull that cord back out. Like this. The working yarn is on the top. All your stitches are facing the inside. See, here's your working yarn on the top needle. Pull that top needle out. Make sure you leave your loop here. All right. All right. Your needle with the working yarn is at the bottom now. All right. Make sure the yarn goes in the back because we're knit stitching. All right. And again, you want to make sure everything's nice and snug with this stitch. You don't want any ladders. All right, so you knit 1, knit 2, yarn in the front. You're going to purl 2, 1, and 2. All right, yarn in the back, and you just continue to knit 2, purl 2 all the way across this needle, and we'll meet back up once you've done those stitches. Okay, we have finished round 2. All right, so I'm going to pull this cord out again. All right, you see I have the loop at the end. I have my stitches evenly divided. All right, the working yarn is on the top needle. All the stitches are facing on the inside, but this is going to just start to come naturally. All right, pull that top needle out. All right, put the bottom needle in your left hand. Make sure you have your working yarn in the back. The needle with the working yarn is in your right hand. Okay, so we're going to knit 2, purl 2. Oops. I want to pull that too tight there. You want this tight, but I'm trying not to let this stitch get too small. You want to make sure this is nice and snug in here. 1 and 2. All right, let me get that stitch marker on that first stitch to mark the beginning of the round. All right, now we're going to purl 2, yarn in the front. And this is the last time I am going to be working a row of the brim with you. All right, so purl 1 and 2. All right. And you just keep repeating that until you get to the halfway point, and that's where we're going to meet back up. Just knit 2, purl 2, and I'll see you there. Okay, we are at the halfway point. So I'm going to put my needles like this. My working yarn is at the top, and we are going to pull the cord. And get these stitches on this needle. All right, again, you see how my needles are. The working yarn needle is on the top. And at this point, you'll notice it kind of takes this natural flow where you don't have to really worry about your brim getting twisted at this point. All right. Now you want to pull that top needle out. And that top needle goes in your right hand, the one with the working yarn. All right. Make sure this goes in the back because we're doing knit stitches again. So knit 2. And make sure you have it snug in this area. So knit 1 and 2. Yarn in the front. And we're going to purl 2. 1 and 2. All right, yarn in the back and just continue to knit 2, purl 2 until you get to the end of the round, and we'll meet back up there. Okay, you have just finished round 3. And for rounds 4 through 10, you just keep repeating the same thing that we have been doing. Knit 2, purl 2, all the way around. And if you need to go back and review, just rewind this video. But you're just doing the same things that we have been doing on the previous rounds. And we will meet back up once you have finished round 10 of your brim. And then we will move on to the body of the hat. Okay, you should have your 10 rounds finished. And your brim should be completed. So now what you want to do is push this needle back, the bottom needle. Okay, and then take that top needle out. And again, you want to leave a loop here. All right. I'm going to remove my stitch marker. All right, so for the body, all you're going to be doing is knit stitches all the way around. Easy peasy. So just do your knit stitches. Make sure that first stitch is nice and snug. And do this until you get to the halfway mark. And we're going to meet back up there. Okay, I have that half of the round completed. So now I'm going to turn it over like this. Feed that bottom needle through. And again, remember you have that loop here. All right, just pull that top needle out just enough so that you can work with it. Make sure this is in the back for your knit stitches and just continue to do your knit stitches. And we're going to meet back up at the end of this round, and I'll work one more round with you just to make sure you have it. And then I will send you on your way with the body of the beanie. Okay, we have round 1 finished. So I'm going to turn my work, feed that bottom needle back through. Oops. Okay, and now you want to take that top needle and pull it out. And again, leave your loop in the back. Take your stitch marker out. And knit that first stitch. Make sure it's nice and snug. And then knit. And you just keep on doing your knit stitches. And don't forget to put that stitch marker marking that first stitch. All right, just keep doing those knit stitches and we'll meet back up once you get to the halfway point. Okay, we are at the halfway point. So I'm going to turn and I'm going to feed that bottom needle through. And then I'm going to pull out that top needle. And we're just going to continue our knit stitches again until we get to the end of the round. And that is where we're going to meet back up because I have some further instructions to give you before I set y'all free. So just keep knitting. Okay, we have finished the second round of the body. And one thing I do want to point out, when you're doing all knit stitches in the round, that is referred to as stockinette stitch when you're working in the round. Sometimes you will see patterns that will tell you to work so many inches in stockinette stitch, and that is what they're meaning when you're doing knitting in the round. It's just all knit stitches. So for the body, you want to just keep continuing to do your rounds. And you're going to want your piece to measure, well, I normally do 7 inches. If you have a smaller head, you may only want to do 6.5 inches or maybe even 6 inches. But you want to take it at the bottom of your brim and take your measuring tape. And it'll be like right under. See, right now I'm at 2 inches. About 2 inches. And it doesn't have to be exact. And I would just go until I get to 7 inches. And one indicator where you can tell how it's fitting your head. All right, let me move this around some. You can put the beanie. Just make sure you leave your loop here. And I suggest putting end caps on the ends when you do this. And so you can get an indicator of how it's fitting your head. And the body should go up to the right where right before your head curves. That's where you start your decreases, the crown of the hat, at the curvature of your head. So that's one indicator where you can tell just how long you should do it. But like I said, I usually do about 7 inches for mine. And once you get to your desired length, that is where we're going to meet back up, and we're going to start the decreases, also known as the crown of the hat. Okay, your beanie should now be at your desired length. So now we're going to work on the decreases. So we're going to pull the bottom needle here back. And we're going to pull that top needle forward. Make sure you still have a loop in the back. All right. So what we're going to do for the first round of the decreases, we're going to knit 8 stitches and then knit 2 together. Now, if you're a beginner knitter, I suggest that you put a stitch marker after every 10 stitches. That will help you on the future rounds to know where the decreases will be at. Okay, so I'm going to knit 8 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So now we're going to knit 2 together. So go through 2 stitches. It's the same thing as a knit stitch, but you're going through 2 stitches. All right. And now we do that again. We knit 8 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So now we're going to knit 2 stitches together again. And instead of going through 1 stitch, you're going through 2 stitches. So I'm going through both of these 2 stitches, just like you would a knit stitch. All right, let's do this one more time. Okay, so we're going to knit 8 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now we're going to knit 2 together. So instead of going through 1 stitch, we're going through 2. That is the only difference. All right. And let's repeat that again. We're going to knit 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And now we're going to knit 2 together. All right, and we're at the halfway point of the row. So we're going to turn We're going to push the bottom needle back. And then pull out the top needle. And make sure you leave that loop in the back. So now we're going to do the second half of the round. And make sure that yarn is in the back. It's always in the back for knit stitches. All right. So again, we're going to knit 8 stitches and then knit 2 together. And make sure you have a tight connection here because you do not want ladders. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now we're going to knit 2 together. So go through 2 stitches and knit them. All right. And you see, and after that, knit 2 together, that's where you want your stitch markers if you're using stitch markers. So just continue doing knit 8 and then knit 2 together until you reach the end of your stitches. And we'll meet back up there. We have just finished round 1 of the decreases, so you want to turn your work, push back that bottom needle, and then take your top needle and pull that one out, leave a loop in the back. All right, so for round 2 of the decreases, we're just going to be doing knit stitches all the way around. And every other round for the decreases will be a knit stitch row. You'll notice the pattern for it. Make sure your yarn is in the back since we're knitting. And we're just gonna knit stitch. Make sure you're nice and tight. And just do your knit stitches. And we'll meet back up once you worked all the stitches on this needle. Okay, we are at the halfway point of the round. So you want to turn your work, push that bottom needle back, I'm getting tangled up here. All right, and take your top needle and pull it out. And again, leave that loop. You always got to have a loop. All right, so we're just going to continue to be doing knit stitches and make sure your yarn is in the back since we're doing knit stitches. And you want to go tight so you don't have those ladders, and just continue to knit stitch, and we'll meet back up when you get to the end of the round. Okay, we are at the end of the round, so we're going to turn our work, push the bottom needle back, and take that top needle and pull it forward. Leave your loop. All right, So for round 3, this is going to be a decrease round. Every other round is a decrease round. So this round, we will knit 7, then knit 2 together. Every decrease round, it goes down by 1. You'll notice the pattern as we go on. All right, so we're knitting 7 stitches. Make sure your yarn's in the back. And again, you want to have it snug. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now we're knitting 2 together. So go through your 2 stitches. All right. And that's the repeat. Let's do it one more time to make sure you have it. So we're knitting 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now you're going to knit 2 stitches together. So go through both those stitches just like you're doing a knit stitch and knit them together. All right, so keep doing that. Knit 7 stitches, then knit 2 together until you get to the end of the needle, and that's where we'll meet back up. Okay, we are at the halfway point, so let's turn. All right, let's push this bottom needle back. You always push the needle that the working yarn is not attached to. That's what's being pushed back. All right, and then your top needle, the one with the working yarn, you push that out and you have your loop left. All right, so we're gonna do knit 7, knit 2 together, same thing we were doing. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and we're going to knit 2 together. So go through both those stitches just like you're doing a knit stitch and knit them together. And just keep doing that until you reach the end of the round. Knit 7, then knit 2 together. Okay, and we are at the end of the round. So we're going to turn our work. Pull the bottom needle back again. And mine wants to be stubborn. And pull the top needle out. Okay, so for round 4, this is going to be a round of knit stitches. So just do your knit stitches all the way across on this needle, and we'll meet back up when you get to the halfway point. Okay, we are at the halfway point of the round, so let's turn our work. Push that bottom needle back. And pull the top needle forward. And we're just going to be doing the knit stitch. And just keep doing your knit stitches until you reach the end of the round. And that is where we're going to meet back up. We have now completed round 4 of the decreases. So we are going to turn our work. And again, push your bottom needle back. And that top needle forward, leaving that loop in the back. All right, so for round 5 of the decreases, you are going to knit 6 stitches and then knit 2 together. All right, so go in that first stitch. And again, your yarn is always in the back. Make sure you're nice and snug. All right, so knitting 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So now you do your knit 2 together. You just go through both those stitches just like you would a knit stitch, and you knit them together. All right, so that is the repeat. So just continue doing knit 6 stitches and then knit 2 together, and we'll meet back up when you get to the halfway mark. Okay, we are at the halfway point on the round, so we turn our work, push the bottom needle back, push that top needle out, and we're going to continue doing knit 6 stitches and then knit 2 together. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and now we knit 2 together. And just continue doing that all the way across until the end of the round. Knit 6 stitches, then knit 2 together. Okay, we are at the end of the round, so we're going to turn our work, push that bottom needle back, and it's being stubborn. All right, and that top needle push forward. Leave your loop in the back here. All right, let me put my stitch marker back on. All right, so now we're going to be doing round 6. And for round 6, we're just going to be doing knit stitches. And I'm all tangled here. All right. We're doing knit stitches. So just continue to knit until you get to the halfway mark, and that is where we're going to meet back up. Halfway mark, so we turn our work, push the bottom needle back, and the top needle forward, leaving our loop back here. And we're just going to continue to do our knit stitches. So just continue to knit stitch. And we'll meet back up at the end of the round. We are at the end of round 6. So let's turn our work. Push our bottom needle back. Our top needle forward. And I lost my stitch marker. Okay, found my stitch marker. All right. So for round 7, we will be doing knit 5 and then knit 2 together. So that's the repeat. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and let's knit 2 together. And you just continue doing that. Knit 5, knit 2 together, and we'll meet back up at the halfway mark. Okay, we're at the halfway point on the round. So turn your work, push the bottom needle back, top needle forward, leaving your loop, yarning back since we're doing knit stitch. And again, we're gonna knit 5. Make sure you're nice and snug here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and knit 2 together. Okay, and just keep doing that. Knit 5, knit 2 together, and we'll meet back up at the end of the round. Okay, we have finished round 7, so we're going to turn our work. Push the bottom needle backwards. And the top needle forward. Add your stitch marker back. And for round 8, this is going to be a round of all knit stitches. So just knit all the way until you get to the halfway point of the round, and that's where we will meet back up. Okay, we're at the halfway mark, so let's turn, push our bottom needle back, and our top needle forward. And we will just continue to do our knit stitches. And we will meet back up once you get to the end of the round. Okay, we have finished round 8. So we're going to turn our work, push the bottom needle back, and the top needle forward. Put my stitch marker back on. All right, so for round 9, we're going to be doing knit 4 stitches and then knit 2 together. That is the repeat. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and now we knit 2 together. Okay, and just keep repeating knit 4 stitches, then knit 2 together, and we'll meet back up when you get to the halfway mark of the round. Okay, we are at the halfway mark, so we're going to turn our work, push the bottom needle back, top needle forward, and we're just going to continue to do our knit 4, then knit 2 together. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and now knit 2 together. And just continue that, knit 4, knit 2 together until you reach the end of the round. And that's where we'll meet back up. Okay, we just finished round 9. So we're going to turn our work. Push your bottom needle back. Top needle forward. I'm putting my stitch marker back in place, and this round is a round of knit stitches. So just do knit stitches all the way around, and we'll meet back up at the halfway point of the round. Okay, we are at the halfway mark, so we're going to turn our work, push your bottom needle back, and your top needle forward. And we're just gonna continue to do our knit stitches. And we will meet back up when you get to the end of the round. Okay, we have finished round 10 of the decreases, so we turn our work, push the top needle back, and the top needle forward. All right, can y'all guess what we're going to do for this round? We are going to knit 3, then knit 2 together. So 1, 2, 3, and now knit 2 together. And that is your repeat. So just continue doing knit 3, then knit 2 together until you get to the halfway mark of the round. And we'll meet back up there. Okay, you are at the halfway mark on round 11. So turn your work, push your bottom needle back, and your top needle forward, and we're going to continue doing knit 3, knit 2 together. So 1, 2, 3, and knit 2 together. And we'll meet back up when you get to the end of the round. Okay, we have finished round 11, so we're going to turn our work, push back your bottom needle. Okay, and then your top needle, pull it forward. Let me put my stitch marker back on. And this is going to be a round of knit stitches for round 12. So just knit all your stitches, and we'll meet back up at the middle of the round. Okay, we are at the halfway point of the round. Turn your work. Push your bottom needle back. Top needle forward. And we are going to continue to do our knit stitches. So just keep knit stitching until you get to the end of the round, and we'll meet back up there. Okay, we have now finished round 12, so let's turn our work. Push the bottom needle back. Top needle forward. All right, can y'all guess what we're going to do on this round? We are going to knit 2 stitches and then knit 2 together. So that's the repeat for round 13. So 1 and 2. Now we knit 2 together. All right, and just keep doing that. Knit 2 stitches, then you knit 2 stitches together, and we'll meet back up at the halfway mark. Okay, we are at the halfway mark. Turn your work. Push the needle back. And it's being stubborn again. All right. Now you want to push the top needle forward. And we are going to continue doing knit 2 stitches and then knit 2 stitches together. So 1, 2, and now knit 2 together. Just keep doing that, and we'll meet back up when you get to the end of the round. Okay, we are at the end of round 13. So we turn our work. Push your bottom needle back. Top needle forward. All right, and for round 14 will be a round of knit stitches. So just do your knit stitches, and we'll meet back up when you're at the middle of the round. Okay, we're at the halfway part. Turn your work. Push that bottom needle back. By now you should be a pro at this. And the top needle forward. And we're just going to continue doing our knit stitches. And we will meet back up when you get to the end of the round. Okay, we have just finished round 14, so we're going to turn our work. We only have 3 more rounds to go now. All right. Get this untangled. All right, so now we're going to do round 15. Okay, and let's pull out that top needle, put our stitch marker back on. And for round, I think we're on round 15. We're going to do knit 1, then knit 2 together. So knit 1. And knit 2 together. And that is your repeat. Oops, I didn't go in there right. Let's do that again. All right. And that is your repeat. Just keep doing knit 1, knit 2 together, and we will meet at the halfway point. Okay, we are at the halfway point. Turn your work. Push back your bottom needle. Push your top needle forward. And we're going to continue with the knit 1. And then knit 2 together. And just continue doing that until the end of the round, and we will meet back up there. Okay, we just finished round 16, so let's turn our work. All right, let's push back our bottom needle. I can't talk. And push forward the top needle. All right, we are going to be doing a round of knit stitches. And this is actually the last round of all knit stitches that we will do. We have one more round of decreases after this. So just do knit stitches and we'll meet back up at the halfway point. We are at the halfway point, so let's turn, push back the bottom needle, push forward the top needle, and we're just going to continue doing our knit stitches. And we will meet back up when you get to the end of the round. Okay, you have just finished round 16. And now it's time for the final round. Sorry, I had to do that. All right, this is round 17. All right, and push your needles back. Well, your bottom needle back. Okay, and push your top needle forward. All right, for round 17, it's all going to be knit 2 togethers. So go into the 2 stitches and do a knit 2 together. Do it again. And my needle does not want to go through. I think I got it. Do another knit 2 together. And another one. Okay, so we're at the halfway mark, and you'll notice you have 4 remaining stitches on the needle we just worked. All right, so turn your work. Push your needle back. Come on, stitches. All right, push that top needle forward. And we're going to continue doing knit 2 stitches together. Okay, and you have 4 stitches remaining. So you have 8 stitches all together. All right, at this point, you want to leave a long enough tail to go through all 8 of those stitches and to secure it, weave in your ends, or possibly add a palm if you want to add a palm. So I'm going to leave a tail. My tail is about that long. I probably did about 15 inches maybe. I probably have too long of a tail. But it's better to have too much yarn than not enough yarn. That's my philosophy. Okay, so you're going to want both your needles facing the right. And if you notice, that top stitch on your top needle has the working yarn. And your other needle has your 4 stitches. And you see how you want it to be laying? All right, so now we're going to thread our darning needle. Let me cut that. All right, so what you want to do is, and make sure this is not wrapped around a needle or anything again, okay? You go through that first stitch on the bottom needle. Okay, and you go through like that, and then you can knock it off. That's one way you can do it, or you can go through all the stitches. Hopefully I can do it easily. Well, I got through 2. Sometimes you can get through more stitches at a time, but you see I'm through 2 stitches. I just take my needle through it and knock it off. And do that in that last portion. Okay. So we got the stitches off of one needle, and now you want to turn it. And I'm going to back these stitches up like this. That way you have the right flow. You don't want your stitches to twist when you do this. Okay, so now you take your darning needle and go through the stitches and just take them off like that. Or if it's easier, you can do it one by one. Okay. Remove your knitting needle and go through all the stitches. And make sure you have it nice and snug. Okay? And then you want to finish it off. I just kind of do like this. That way you don't have any hole. And I'm going to feed my needle back down. Now, if you don't add a palm, then you would just weave it in the inside of the hat like you normally would, weaving in a stitch. But I'm going to be adding a palm to mine, so I'm going to leave my yarn. All right, so now we're going to weave in the yarn at the beginning of the beanie. So you want to thread your darning needle. And you're just going to go through some stitches. And you want to make sure that you're not showing through on the front side. All right. And then I'm going to go back the other direction. And then I'm going to go one more time in the opposite direction. And we will cut the yarn. And we are finished. You have now made a beanie, a basic beanie using the magic loop method. And like I said, if you want to add a palm to yours, you can add a palm. So I hope y'all enjoy the tutorial, and let me know how your knitting journey is going. And if you make this beanie, let me know. I'd love to see a picture of it. You can email your pictures to justanotherstitch2020@gmail.com. So now I am going to leave a keyword for the Gobble Gobble giveaway. This is a giveaway that I am doing for the month of November in the year 2024. So based on when you watch this tutorial, this giveaway may already be over with. But for the Gobble Gobble giveaway, I'm going to be picking 2 people randomly to get 15 extra entries into the giveaway. And the keyword will be sunflower. Sunflower is the keyword, and I'm picking 2 people randomly. So I hope y'all have a fabulous yarny day. Bye, everyone.